It'll ask you if that's okay.
Yep, it's recording.
Okay. Mhm.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day that we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. I know a lot of us are stuck in the house and we're sick and tired of being here, and we're ready to we're ready to go outside, to be outside, to have life once again. And um, I know I'm not the only one suffering from cabin fever, and so I wanted to speak to a professional about how are we supposed to balance
Mhm.
where we are as a planet with where we would like to be as humans. And so we're speaking with I'm speaking it into her life, Dr. Pilar Tucker, who is absolutely amazing. She is a community activist. She's been working with inner city at risk, working with our children and maintaining their mental health. And so I think it would have been extremely beneficial to have this conversation way before. But now that we're here, it's amazing that we're having it now. So,
Mhm.
Dr. Tucker, thank you for your time. I know you're super busy. Empower Her Crown LLC and Empower Her Crown philanthropy work that you do. Please tell us, like, who you are, what it is that you do, and how are you so amazing?
Oh, thank you, Taylor. You're amazing. Thank you for even inviting me to this interview. I thank you so much for speaking life over me. Dr. Tucker to be. I'm so happy about that. But I'm also the founder of Empower Our Crown, which is an organization that empowers mentally and emotionally competent world changers by bridging the gap between mental wellness and leadership advancement. And that work came about really from a place of pain. I used to suffer a lot from depression and anxiety, and I was in the middle of grad school getting my master's at the time, and I just felt myself not rising to the occasion, not, giving myself my all, not giving school my all, not giving work my all. And it was because I was just exhausted. I was trying to do too much too fast while also trying to heal from things that were, not necessarily traumatic, but yeah, some traumatic experiences, whether that was in relationships or just the way I felt about myself at the time. My self-esteem was kind of low. So I had still been, showing up for the world and doing all these great things and going to school and going to work. But internally, I felt awful. I felt like a fraud sometimes because I was helping other people, in their walk with their mental health, and I wasn't helping myself. So on the outside, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, you're so dope. You do all these things. You're in school, you're working full time. And that was good validation. It made me feel good. But like I said, on the inside, I did not feel whole. So I was trying to think of a way that I could feel whole again. And it was really checking in with myself and doing the things that I love. So Empower Our Crown was birthed last year, creating a space for women and girls, youth to adult age, just having a space to be heard, having their voice and having their power and strength. We as women go through so many different things that are really meant to break us, and we always rise. Even if it feels hard too, it's like we just have this internal power and strength that helps us do so. And we come together and do that. But collectively, when we're in a space, it just happens even greater. The power and the sisterhood and coming together as leaders of the community together, it's just like we're unstoppable. So I created Empower Our Crown from a place of pain, but now it's just transformed into so much power, thankfully.
That's beautiful. And a lot of us, when we create, it comes out of a place of pain, but that pain turns into power and we're able to share that with others. And thank you for sharing your pain and turning it into our power. Um, as far as working with youth,
Mhm.
we're going to get to where we are today, stuck in our houses, like children on punishment. But as far as working with youth, as a parent, I'm wondering, what was one of the things that you noticed or that you saw within the youth that they needed the most help or support with?
Yeah. So the thing that I saw that the youth needed the most help with was just being heard. Sometimes, as parents, I'm not a parent yet, but, as a teacher, as an educator, as someone who works with youth, I oftentimes see them in a space that they're not being heard, because teachers tell them what to do, parents tell them what to do all the time, and no one really listens to them. And you're supposed to listen to adults, but you also have to listen to children, because there are a lot of things that children have to offer the world, and sometimes that gets silenced because this authority that we give as adults mask what they're trying to do and what they're trying to say. So I try to give children a safe space to be heard, validated, and supported, but also in a way that also helps promote what their parents are trying to teach them. So it's not taking away from what the parent or the teacher says, but it's just giving the child a space to be heard in their own voice.
Mhm. So we as parents, a lot of us are part of the generation of you are to be seen and not heard. And so we raise our children in the same dynamics in which we were raised. And so how can we, having this ideology that we've, 30, 40, 50 years old, you grew up in this mindset. How do you all of a sudden start giving children space and opportunity to be these vocal, opinionated
Yeah,
people that they are without, you know, I'm the parent, I'm not your friend. So where's the balance in that?
definitely. That's a question that I get often, because most of us, even us, grew up with parents who were in a generation that was like, you do as you say, you do as we say, and that's it. And there's no discussion or negotiation after that. And it's hard to break that cycle when that cycle has been passed on to generations. However, just like those cycles can be done, they can also be undone, and it takes time. So it's not so much of breaking the barrier of parent versus child, but it's allowing the child to be heard in a different way. So giving them the autonomy to learn how to have a voice and still respect adults. So it's giving them, yes, you can have a space to be creative and test out some of the waters, but they're going to be limits. That's where the boundaries have to come in, because I know for especially people of color, we have to have those boundaries. We can't just go out and do whatever we want. There has to be some limits. So yes, have the space to have a voice, but I'm going to implement some limits, some boundaries for you to do so. So it's structured, but it's still a little bit of flexibility, and it just takes practice. If you are someone who's grown up with a certain type of lifestyle, it's hard to undo that in a day. However, if you're trying at it day by day, a little at a time, it's something that then develops into a habit and a routine. That's not something that you have to try to do. It's something that just is instilled in your schedule.
Okay. All right. Well, moving forward with schedules, I'm having a difficult time maintaining what a schedule should look like in a household during COVID-19. And so the schedule previously was, we get up, you go to school, I do what I need to do, and we see each other for dinner. Now, all of a sudden, I am not only the parent, but I'm the parent, I'm the educator, I'm the principal, I am the administrative assistant. Like I'm filling roles in that I think BPS need to pay me for, because this is not what I signed up for, and I'm not good at these things.
Yeah.
So I my mental health is taking a toll, because I don't like being like, I just like being in my parental role. Did you do your homework? That from there, that's all I want to do. But did you do assignment 2.4 and assignment 7.8? And did you do page, like, this is over the top for me. So I cannot imagine for parents that have children in special needs classes, or parents that have children with disabilities, or other abilities, like it's over. Pilar, I am overwhelmed. I want to choke the shit out these kids.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel you. I understand. And I It's a lot. And I can hear that it's a lot for you in your voice and just in your body language says that it's a lot because you've shifted from, okay, you're the parent role, doing your own job to now taking on 10, 20 roles in one day. And that's overwhelming for anybody. And I think that it's something that unfortunately isn't avoidable right now because we're in such a crises. We're in a crisis where we can't leave, we can't send our kids to school, we can't tell the teacher, hey, come get so and so, it's too much right now, but we can create a little more balance in our life to adjust to this new norm. And that's why I said about schedules, it's so important to have a schedule. And I know it's a lot to create one sometimes because it's like, well, the days are so unpredictable. You don't know, especially having children, you don't know what's going to happen. However, you can plan, and because when you have a plan in place, like say it's like, okay, morning routine, you waking up, you going to get breakfast, wash your teeth, wash yourself, whatever, come to the table, and we're going to have breakfast together, and then we'll do an hour of homework, and having a schedule not just for your kids that is very structured, but also yourself. And in that schedule, it needs to be like me time, like mommy needs her own time. Where kids know that they're doing A and B while you're doing C, and everyone's safe and just in their own schedule. So you get that space, because if you're feeling overwhelmed every day, chances are that overwhelming feeling only increases because the days are not we can't change what the stay at home order. We can't, so we have to make sure that we're changing our own new realities to adjust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have my brain is turning, and we have a whole nother month minimum,
Yeah.
and who knows, we may even hear that they're never going back to school until September, right, or August, whenever these kids go back to school. So
Yeah.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
now is the time to put in place a schedule that clearly I did not have previously. And I feel like a lot of the stress and overwhelming will die down once there is a schedule in place.
Mm-hmm.
And once we figure out how we going to abide by the schedule and what are the consequences? Go to your room. You already in your room. Like,
Right, right.
so what consequences are now like acceptable? Now when you're stuck in the house, you can't go outside with your friends. Well, I couldn't go outside with my friends before, so it doesn't matter. There are no consequences right now. So what are effective consequences for lack of discipline?
Yeah, yeah. And that's another good question. That's been something that a lot of my parents at my school have been asking. Like, how do we take away something from them? And in all reality, there's still things that can be taken away in the household. I'm just thinking about when I was growing up, if I was grounded or something like that, I couldn't go outside, then I'd be like, okay, well, I still have my phone, I still have my TV. Then those things started getting taken away. The things that I thought were comforting in the home were now implemented in my consequences. And it's because, there are things that maybe your kids do daily that they really enjoy doing. So if you were to implement some consequences, it's taking some of that away, or even just putting limits on it. You can only watch TV for 30 minutes today because you didn't listen to what mommy said, instead of taking it all away because you don't want them to then feel helpless. They're already in the house. They already can't go play with their friends. So it's just a matter of taking some away, and then letting them feel how that feels. You don't like getting your TV or video games taken away. You don't like that. So this is just positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, taking something away with the hopes that the good behavior will then come about.
Well, in my household, it's like you can only take cold showers. You can't take hot showers no more. You only get 5 minutes of hot water. Like they I feel like their whole life was like MBTA and going outside and going to play, so they feel like they're already on punishment.
Yeah.
And anything else taken away is like
This,
we as a country have had all of our liberties
yeah.
taken away. And so, you have the seven, they're not seven principles, but the seven, yes. Um, so I really want to talk about that, and maybe how to implement that into a daily structure as well,
Mm-hmm.
and how these can help relieve some of the stress and anxiety that we're all feeling as a community, and maybe like turning that inward, and you know using these seven, what are they, seven steps,
7 types of self-care.
seven types of self-care, and how we can implement them into our daily schedules.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So when you're thinking about creating a schedule, you want to implement self-care. Sometimes we wait until Fridays or to the weekends to implement self-care because we feel like we've earned it. However, self-care has to be something that's habitual, something that is naturally in our schedules every single day. So we're making sure that we're maximizing our days. And self-care could be, doing your nails or washing your hair, but it can also be reading a book, strengthening your mental stimulation. So the 7 steps the 7 types that I created were pleasure. So again, giving yourself some love, showing yourself a spa day, treating yourself to do some nails, or, do a virtual date with your girlfriend and catch up. Something with pleasure that will really enhance your dopamine, making you happy and feeling good. And then sensory is the next one, and that's just something that we're checking in with all of our senses. So in sensory, you want to do like a body scan. What are you hearing right now? What are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you touching? That brings us into the here and now and raises the awareness that we have with self. And then the third one is emotional. We have to check in with self. How are you doing? And when we ask that question, we want to be mindful and intentional about how we respond. So not just good, just to shrug someone off and keep about your day, but really saying, how are you truly feeling? COVID-19 is stressful. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today. I'm blessed and highly favored, but I need a little break from my kids, you know? And then physical activity. This is something that I stress a lot because we have to get our bodies moving. And I know a lot of people love the gym and some people don't love the gym. Right now, we don't even have access to gyms. So it's really about how to move your body in a way that feels good and break a little sweat, because that also raises the health awareness in our bodies. That increases our adrenaline, which is healthy for us to respond to our bodies in a good way. And then spirituality. So I'm faith-based. I pray to God. I do virtual church now, but spirituality is something that we really need to hone in on. And it doesn't always have to be going to church or prayer. It could be meditation and yoga and mindfulness, just checking into your highest self. And then social connection. So I know that we're in a time of social distancing, so we can't even be close to our friends physically. However, that does not negate the fact that we can't have the social connection. Doing these virtuals, these lives, these interviews, calling a friend, calling a family member and saying, hey, I miss you. Having that social connection. There's been some really awesome and dope DJs coming on live and just doing some virtual dance parties and music, and really giving people that hope and that feel of, maybe you're not in a club, but hey, you're going to make your living room the club tonight. Bring your friends, bring your drinks virtually. We got this, and we're going to play some music and dance. And it sounds, at first, everyone's like, what is this? And then we're like, oh my gosh, like, let's tune in. And then the last one is mental stimulation. So during this time, we really have to exercise our brain power. We may not be physically at work, but our brain needs to constantly be working. And then that's not to say overwhelm yourself with doing so much work or anything like that. It's just making sure that you're checking in with how your brain is moving and operating. So checking in with a book, like if you like to read, or if you want to just read a quick article, check in with the news. These are something that we should be doing daily. but also take your breaks. Like self-care is also about taking a break to breathe and rest and check out of that busy life of productivity that we as Americans living in this country, we're forced to always be on the move and, check in with the next best thing. And that's great, but we have to take a break.
Okay, so let's go through the 7 one more time. The first one is
Pleasure.
pleasure. So having some fun, engaging in something that makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said something about a nail day and a spa day. Since we can't go nowhere, there are people that do nails that come to you. There's people who do hair that can come to you. So if that's something that you're interested in, that's something that you want to look for. Like I know my eyebrows need to get done, but my lady ain't mobile. So and the second one is
And the second one is sensory. So checking in with your 5 senses.
so when you said that, that actually, so I love meditating. I'm not good at it. It lasts about 30 seconds and then my brain's on to the next. But it really put in perspective for me, like how to better meditate. Like, what is it that you're hearing? What do you feel? What do you smell? And just kind of honing in on each sense before trying to meditate. So kind of like a way to stop and reset instead of just trying to just jump into it. The third one is
The third one is emotional. Checking in with your emotions. How are you feeling?
and being honest about your feelings, because I know sometimes we always do, and you said this earlier, it's just like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm good. And honestly, when we've gotten into a habit of so much telling other people that we're good, even when we're not good, that when we check in with ourselves, it's just like, well, I feel good. And you don't feel good. And you should be, even to yourself, whether in journal, diary, or internally in that conversation, like, what do you actually feel?
Right.
And the fourth one is,
And the fourth one is physical activity.
so I've been failing at this sit up and push up challenge, but I've been trying though. I've been failing, but I've been trying.
Yeah. You didn't fail because you've been trying.
Okay, well then I'm winning. I'm the winner.
Winning.
Number 5 is,
Spirituality.
and I'm all about that. That's, if y'all don't know what that is, that's something that you have to work on yourself. That is something that no one else can help you with.
Yeah.
And number 6,
Social connection.
and so I know I just got an invite for us to do shelter in place party with C-Plan, our collaborative leadership action network, and I'm really excited for that. Like, we're all bringing our own wine and appetizers. I thought that was cute. It's just like, bring BYOB. Like, where are we bringing it though? To the living room, to the dining room? Where are we going? Um, and then the 7th one is
Mental stimulation.
reading a book. And so I am not the strongest reader. My children, I'll be on the first page and the kids will still be on page 10. So I know my limitations. And so audiobooks work for me. And even if you don't have like an Audible or like a book app, you can find a lot of books being read to you on YouTube. And so there in 2020, there are no excuses as far as like mental stimulation, even if it's a YouTube video on something that you wanted to learn how to do, like crochet or knitting or whatever have you, making candles. And so the 7 steps to, I keep butchering your
Okay. 7 steps, 7 types to self-care. Same thing.
but as far as like COVID-19, being in the house, using those 7 steps, what other advice or suggestions would you give to people who are living alone, who don't have the pleasure of children nagging them or bugging them or a significant other getting on their nerves? Like, what about the people that are at home alone with a pet or no pets and just really feeling alone?
Mm-hmm. And it's hard, especially when you're alone, because you don't have anyone to wake up to. You don't have anyone to, implement these social distancing, but also at home like activities with, so you have to be very intentional when you're alone. You have to actually put in your schedules, your daily, your weekly schedules, that you will connect with someone, because it's so easy to disconnect from the world when you don't have anyone constantly there to hold you accountable. Like, I'm sure you wake up your kids, hey, time to get up, we got to do this, we have to do that. When you're alone, you do that for yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that you're implementing some time with people. So whether that's setting up a virtual call, setting up you're going to join in on virtual yoga in the morning. Seek those opportunities to be connected, because disconnection will not only leave you alone, but it will make you lonely. And that is not something that is conducive during this time. We need each other the most when we can't have access to each other physically.
Mm-hmm. And really quickly, I know our elders that are currently alone or um, living in an elders care
Yeah.
facility, like how I would like to say for those, I love my elders. I'm a big elders advocate. So call your aunties, your great aunts, your great uncles, call your grandparents, call those that you know are home alone that aren't going to pick up the phone and say, like, I'm in need.
Right.
We're talking about the previous generations and how they operate versus how we are. It's different. They're not going to like just pick up the phone and say, I'm lonely, just want to talk. But they are lonely and they do just want to talk. And
Mhm.
so pick up the phone and reach out and just be mindful that, you know, our elders are already going through their own social distancing, getting older, and having family members, their friends, their siblings no longer be in the physical plane. And so I just stress to us to take a moment to make sure that we reach out to those that, because of how they were raised, aren't going to reach out to us.
Yes, absolutely. My grandmother is actually in a nursing home right now, and it's been a struggle to try to call her every day, because sometimes she doesn't answer. She doesn't want to be bothered, but I'm still going to call, because she needs to know that her family still loves her. Sometimes when we put our elders in these nursing homes, it's a way to forget it. We can forget about them, because they're getting the proper care that they need from 24-hour staff. They're getting food every day. So it's like, oh, their needs are met. But family is everything, and good, healthy family is everything. So if we're not being those people who are constantly checking in on, our grandparents took care of many of us and when we grew up. So it wouldn't be fair to then not return the love, because that's what it
Mm-hmm.
is, love. Make sure you're connecting with your loved ones, and don't forget about those who took care of you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Lastly, Dr. Pilar Tucker. um, lastly, we are going to be able, like, outside's going to be available again. We're going to be able to go outside
Right.
at some point. How do you envision that? Like, how do you envision us actually reconnecting? Do you think elbow bumps are going to be the new thing? How do you vision us going outside again?
Woo.
And how are we going to, like, after social distancing, it only takes 30 days for you to engage in a new habit. Are we going to become these hermits as a society, or like, how do we prevent that from happening?
Yeah, that is such an interesting question. I was thinking about this earlier, actually, because I'm like, what are people going to do when we can finally say we can go outside? And I believe that with anything new, like, new things are so hard to adjust to originally. Like, even with this COVID, we went into almost a state of shock, because we're like, oh my gosh, we can't go outside. Outside is canceled. What do you mean about that? And it took some time, and now, like, week 3, week 4, we're adjusting. So I think when
Yeah.
can have that outside pleasure again, it's going to take some time to adjust, but hopefully people are now having this heightened sense of awareness that, one, we need to be better in terms of our hygiene. Two, we need to take care of our economy. We need to make sure that we are taking care of our earth, because what you put into the earth comes out. So really thinking more intentionally. I think collectively as a nation, we're going to hopefully transition into being more aware, and leaning on each other more. But it's going to take some time, because this is kind of a traumatic experience for people. And with trauma, people take a while to heal from that, especially if they're not being intentional with that process. So my hope is that once we transition back outside as a world, as a nation, that we're just taking baby steps. I don't want people to just rush into everything that we used to do. Like, take your time, but also be intentional with that time, because you don't want to, sometimes people will get used to it. There are people who are going to be used to social distancing that they will not make the effort to check in with others. And those people are going to really have to push themselves out of this. So it's going to take some time. But we can do it. We're humans. We have the capacity to. It's just a matter of how willing and able we are.
How weird does that sound? Like,
so crazy.
Outside is canceled. When we can go outside, like the fact that these conversations are even real feels surreal.
Right. I'm like, how did we get here?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if people would stay their ass in the house, we could go outside.
Right.
So can you please stay in the house so I can go outside?
Please.
Thank you. What do you have coming up? So I know you're dope. I've been watching you for a while. Everybody's been talking about you for a while. Like, what do you have coming up?
Yeah, I appreciate you. You're dope. I'm so happy that we've crossed paths. This won't be the last of our connection. But I do these virtual wellness series now called Self-Care Sunday. Every Sunday, I do it under Empower Our Crown, while I invite a new guest, whether a mental health professional or expert, someone or just another expert in their field who's comfortable talking about how to get through this time. So it's interview style, but I also implement some of my therapy techniques. So we'll do some grounding in the beginning and in the end, and some icebreakers to make sure that everyone who attends is heard, is safe, and empowered to just feel like they can get through this with the community. So I'm doing those every Sunday. You can check it out on my page at Empower Our Crown on Instagram. We send out Eventbrites. I do a newsletter weekly every Monday to keep people involved. And there have been different requests for me doing, different lives and stuff like that, and some workshops that are in the making right now, virtual workshops, so people can, access stress management, be intentional in developing self-care, individualized plans, and then also just staying mentally well during this time.
Mm-hmm. And what about one-on-one sessions? How does one contact you to like become a patient or a client of yours?
So I am in the process of putting this on my website, but I'm going to be doing one-on-one coaching. So it's going to be some of the mental and emotional wellness, but also leadership advancement. And the way that people can contact me is to directly reach out via email. You can get access to that on all of my pages, and also our website, www.empowerourcrown.org, and just send an email request. This is what I'm looking for, and we'll do like a brief consultation and to see if we want to move forward. This is not therapy. I'm not, taking therapy clients. As I said, I work in a school and I'm a full-time doctoral student, so I'm not taking individual therapy clients, but coaching clients, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you for your time and for the 7 types of wellness, or 7 types of
Got it.
I definitely will be implementing those. And for my own sake, we are going to create a schedule so I can get my mental health and you can get your time and space, and we can coexist under the same roof with some peace and peace.
Yes. I
So
love
thank you.
Thank you so, so much, Tayla. I appreciate you. I support you, stand with you. Whatever you need, let me know.
Thank you. Have an amazing day.
You too.